Welcome back to another episode of the Marketing Measurement Matters podcast. This time again, the three of us. It's been a while,
Finally
gentlemen.
again, yeah.
Yeah, finally.
The last time it was only the two of you, right?
Yeah,
And
that was also a very good episode, right?
what was the topic again?
I have no idea.
I can't recall, but we were allowed to.
You truly don't remember?
We could have our. It was a very special episode because we were finally allowed to have our drinks on the table.
Yeah, I just told the guys to put down their drinks because it didn't look professional, but maybe I'm a bit pedantic about it. Cool. So we are back.
yeah.
We are back now with an episode to talk about signal engineering. Yeah, just do it. I don't know. I don't really care.
Just so shows that we are properly hydrated. It's important.
Yeah, that's
very
good.
important.
And we want to talk about the topic of signal engineering. And signal engineering basically means to send back signals which somehow describe the value that a user has for a brand. Send it back as a signal to the platform that the platform then can choose similar users and decide basically on which users to target and make sure that there's a lot of profit and revenue to be gained. So it sounds a bit abstract, so we're going to dive into it in much more detail, of course. But there are two major trends that drive this topic and also create this hype around signal engineering. Do you care to explain those, or should I get started?
Janos, one thing real quick. Is this something that is new? Is this just coming up, or has this been around for a while?
Well, the topic of the term signal engineering, I think has been sort of invented within the last year by people like Eric Seufert and similar experts. But I think people have been doing this for quite a while. I mean,
It's really not new, right? I mean, we have been doing this
There used to be Facebook lookalikes. That was definitely a thing. There used to be passback APIs for many different platforms.
I remember how you could hash your the email addresses of your high lifetime value users and send it back to Meta. It was always
You still can do that. You're just not allowed in Germany anymore.
It was pre-GDPR, so that's how long ago it was.
All right, okay. So now we call it signal engineering, make it GDPR, and we got
and I mean, let's leave out the GDPR discussion for now.
Right.
What?
Because it's probably boring as hell. But of course, all of this should happen in a GDPR compliant context. But yes, we have been doing this for quite a while. So we sent back specifically to Google Ads platform the attribution weight per Google Click ID via the offline conversion export functionality that Google has. And that helps then our brands that work with this sort of feature to automatically optimize the bidding within Google. So if you have a ROAS target or a CPA target, then it could be adjusted automatically based on the attribution weights that we sort of calculated for our brands. So I think it has been done for a while. What's new about it is now that there's even more pressure to actually do this. And that is driven by, I think, two forces. One is that, there's less and less third-party data available, so that some third-party tools can help you with generating the signal, and then of course that these things such as Google PMax campaign and what's it called, Facebook Advantage Plus, where basically the optimization happens within these big ad platforms and the bid optimization,
Where the algorithm has to learn, right?
Where the algorithm,
and for that it needs data.
And it needs us as the teacher, or the brands as the teacher, so to say, by sending adequate signal. I think that's a good introduction into the topic. Now we can approach this in different ways. First of all, what is there left for marketers to actually do? And then that's not in no way to be overly provocative, but given that you just decide on a budget that you, for example, want to give Meta, and I mean, Mark Zuckerberg made this case, just let us know how much budget you want to spend with us, and
we do
give
everything.
You back.
We do creatives. We do everything for you. Yeah.
And so even if you argue, okay, you can decide on the budget, and then the signal, the information that you send back to the platforms in terms of what's a valuable user, and then creatives. But is creatives really still a thing? And do we fully believe that creatives are being, generated by marketers in the future?
Depends really, right? So, probably for your big flagship, MS, Louis Vuitton flagship campaign on out of home and TV and so on and so forth, might be still that you definitely want to keep the human in the loop there. But for, like, let's say small ads on display or retargeting or even definitely search, you're probably going to have the AI. It's probably going to be good enough if the AI does
finding the best keyword, finding the best text for the campaign. Yeah,
exactly.
And then maybe also we have to, as you said, we have to differentiate between these big brands like Montblanc and Louis Vuitton that really have a whole brand strategy behind it, and sort of language through pictures, etc. And then your regular e-commerce store. Yeah. How much should they invest into actually amazing creative building?
Yeah, I for example think that Temu and Shein ads are not really brand strategy wise great, right? I mean, they're probably already AI generated massively.
I wouldn't be surprised about that.
No, me neither.
Yeah, and then the question is, finally, we spoke with our CTO about it yesterday, whether that's actually a field that it's worth investigating to help brands to create creatives, or whether this will all be done within the ad platforms. Keep in mind, we're talking about the same ad platforms that have some of the best functioning foundational models, such as Google and of course Meta. So the two levers that we can be sure of then, and that remain, is budgeting. So how much do you want to spend on Google versus Facebook versus TikTok? And then the signals. And budgeting, you could say, okay, that's somehow the topic of measurement, finding out how much you want to plan for each platform. And then, of course, signal engineering. And another important aspect, at least from my perspective, which I always believed in, was if you sort of compete on these ad platforms, what is the one key differentiator that you have? And that can only be, in my view at least, the proprietary first-party data that you have. That, really knowing that this user is worth more than the other, and use that to kind of gain this competitive advantage on the ad platform. I don't know how you see this, but...
but hasn't that been the case like forever already? That you understand how your campaigns work, that you understand which campaigns bring you the best customers. And the best customer is obviously not always based on revenue, because that just doesn't work for everyone. Or also it comes too late and you can't really use it.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I mean, the problem with that, though, is that often you don't know which campaigns bring in which customers. On Google you might, but on Facebook it's becoming much more difficult. Right?
Yeah, true.
So I think that's also something that is important to understand in this concept of signal engineering. We're going to be sending signal back about users, not about campaigns. That's an important distinction.
Yeah.
And sure, but I mean, it was the same before, right? That you actually look at your campaign and see which users there are, and then understand how the users are summed up, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, great if you did it that way. I think many marketers still what they do is they look more at, right. Okay, this is a particular campaign, right, and might have brought in some users, but like even not so long ago, maybe people were just looking at, all right, okay, this campaign brought in this many impressions or this many clicks, like just some kind of very short-term vanity metrics, and maybe, just maybe, they would look at, all right, okay, this campaign brought in this many users when they look at it via last click, and or this many conversions when they look at it via last click. And I think that is precisely the wrong way to go about it when you actually want to excel at signal engineering a lot.
And I mean, another thing that we have to keep in mind...
Always this last click hate.
You don't like last click? Oh.
No, he doesn't like. I like last click because, as you just said,
no, but I mean that tells you something about, okay, this user interacted with this campaign, and shortly before they bought something. But it doesn't tell you anything yet about, is this going to be a returning user? Is this an incremental user?
Yeah, and excellent point, because that brings us back to how it has been done in the past. If you had just a conversion pixel on, let's say, sign up for a free trial, then of course that could be a big problem if you then let the ad platforms optimize for that. And I mean, there are numerous cases, even if you just send back like free trial started as a success event, then what these ad platforms will do is optimize to get users that start a free trial. And those might not be the same that actually then, or that they might, overall in that audience, we might have a very low conversion rate. And that sounds very reasonable to us and like logical, but it's still what many marketers do. So you want to be smarter about it and try to actually understand what are the signals that need to be sent back that you actually get really valuable users. And I give you another example from our sort of Google Ads export from one of the clients who use that from the mobility space. So what they, for example, do, they only let us send back. So we have this export into Google Ads on a Google Click ID basis. And what they do is they tell us before we send back that signal, which of these bookings has been canceled, so that we can subtract that.
That's good.
And it sounds illogical, right? Yeah. Because they don't want Google ads to optimize
on people that cancel.
Yeah, I mean, it's logical, but
I mean, it sounds logical, but I'm not sure that many people actually do it that way.
No.
And that many people actually understand that they need to find a way for what they need to do is they need to find a proxy for long-term value, and they need to find that proxy very fast. I think that's one of the core challenges here in signal engineering, because at least from what I know of Google, and I reckon it's going to be probably quite similar for Meta, they want signal and they want a good proxy for long-term value, but they want it fast. They want it now. So if you wait for, let's say, 180 days to see whether that user turned out into a high-paying customer, that is not going to work, right?
And because we do that. Like we have sort of this lifetime value attribution weight where we could potentially say, oh, suddenly we know this Google Click ID actually cost another booking.
Which was like 180 days ago.
180, Google, do you still want this information?
No.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
so
Google doesn't want that.
Google, at least to my potentially outdated knowledge, is that Google is very much focused on whatever data it gets within the first day, and then the second, and then basically if you try to update information on a Google Click ID basis, after that it's negligible. Like it doesn't really.
But it's really similar than when you look at everything that is done in the SCAD network, right? Because that goes in directly the same direction, and this is also why a lot of people are completely overwhelmed with the SCAD network. Yeah. At first it's very technical, something with binary bits and shit like this. But in the end it's really like you have to decide which kind of information do you want to send back in the first 2 days. Yeah. What do you send by the postback in the first 3 to 8 days? And what do you want to send via postback in the, I think, 9th to 36th day, which is already quite difficult because the amount of data you can send back is different, same as with Google. But it's also signal engineering. You have to decide what is the information that you can get in the first 2 days, what defines your customer value. Yeah. And this is, same thing.
That's the sort of trade-off between, how fast you can send that information and between accuracy. So, I mean, great if you have a signal or you can generate a signal within the first day that tells you, oh, this is going to be like with the, very low confidence interval, very high paying or high lifetime value client. But I assume most of the clients cannot do that.
No, and I mean, what I really think is that for most of the clients, this idea, what you just said, to send back first-party data instead of a conversion pixel is already completely going over their heads, right? This is something
conversion pixel doesn't know whether the booking has been cancelled or not.
Conversion pixels are completely useless if you think about it. But
and that's the thing that we were referring to at the beginning. Third-party sort of data is useless for
first-party data is important. But it's really, I mean, the usage of first-party data marketing is still not that high.
No, I mean, from your consulting practice.
And this is why I always say. I mean, someone might be looking down on last plus click attribution, but many people don't have anything at all. And I mean, if you just use last click attribution, you can still do a lot of things with that. Yeah. Instead of being completely blind. Yes, it will not be perfect. Yes, you will miss out a lot of the marketing pressure and of the assisted clicks and so on. But yeah, that's the first step, and that is actually still missing for a lot of big companies that should do that, and where you actually think like, oh, they should have this, but they don't. I mean, the thing is also the companies we worked at like 10 years ago, like Jimdo or Good Game Studios, for example, we did this back then already. Yeah. That was standard, but that's not the case everywhere. I think that's.
But that's funny because then it means that this all was more or less available like 10 years ago, and the more progressive marketers. And I bet you like the ones that for example, we talked to when we talked to
Stefan.
Stefan, or also. From HelloFresh, the guy that we had from PIMC here. Luca, sorry.
Same thing.
These people obviously did this. They tried out everything to make the algorithm smart or have more information being fed in the algorithm. But so how? Okay, but then that's maybe another question. How do we, because the bidding algorithms and the way the platforms use this information is very intransparent, right?
Yeah, that we don't know. That is also very important
Same
to
for
know.
Scout Network.
And
We are trying a
cynical question: is a documentation about how the algorithms work? And
there's probably some documentation how the API works, but
Yeah.
definitely not on how exactly the algorithm works. And that is also important to
so
know.
it's extremely intransparent.
Yeah,
and how that information is being used. So I mean, we talked to an expert in Boston once, and he told us what they do is if they have like the actual margin per purchase or per user, they divide it by 2 because they don't want Meta to know the actual margin. No, because they assume as soon as
then
Meta
they're
has the
just going
margin,
to charge more for the ads.
they might just
sure,
charge more,
sure.
which maybe is reasonable if they report to the stakeholders.
And I mean, in the end, then something like your attribution weight you send back, which is probably like a value between 0 and 1 or something like this.
Yeah, so we multiply it with revenue if possible.
But I mean, that's way more informative for the algorithm, and all your marketing partners don't know how much money you make, which is good.
But that's the thing. And like, okay, we have a conflict of interest here. We are playing a game
100%.
with the ad platforms. We are also playing it in a way a little bit against them. But then we also like what makes it even worse is that we don't really even know if we're winning or not, right? Because it's just so intransparent. So we don't really know what it's working, if it's working, right? Because like the algorithms may the ad platforms may report that their ROAS went up.
Yes.
After
But
we implemented
yours
that
might
change. Our blended one might not, or
even go down.
Go down for different reasons, for the same reasons. We don't even know that. It's incredibly hard to know.
Yes, and that's where testing and experimentation comes in. So ideally, and many companies specializing in this, that's one of the one of the key factors that they also help with is to set up these A/B tests on these ad platforms. But then jumping back, you remember we had this podcast where we talked about how A/B tests within the ad platform, specifically Google and Meta, might be. One should look really carefully on how valid the results are in terms of they potentially being biased towards the audiences. The split might not be 100% neutral just based on how the algorithms work in terms of targeting. So what a suggestion from a statistical perspective would be to first set up an AA test, and just to make sure that that works. That doesn't yield any significant difference.
Yeah, but that is maybe a very basic necessary condition. But what is even more important here is that we are trying to, in the most cases for signal engineering, what we're trying to find is customers that are valuable in the long term.
So it's important to understand what is actually a valuable customer. So you have to understand your business first.
First of all, you have to understand that. But let's assume it's a simple case. You want a valuable customer. Let's say in our case, is a customer that repeatedly buys high margin products, and a lot of them in short time interval. So let's say we have.
It doesn't return any of them.
Doesn't return any of them. Also, let's assume all of that is true. Like let's say we operate a sports supplement store. So what we want to have is we want to find these people who buy protein powder, because protein powder it lasts like 3 weeks, and then you buy it again. So we want to find people who buy protein powder over and over and over again. But how do we know they buy it over and over and over again? So we have
predictions.
By prediction, but then we need to validate the prediction in live. We cannot just say, all right, okay, we actually predicted that a person is going to buy a lot of protein powder. We send that data back to the ad platform. We get more people where we predict again that they buy a lot of protein powder. That doesn't work. We need to monitor that in live and actually make sure that they really are buying a lot of protein powder after we predicted that they did that.
Yeah, but I mean, in the end, that's like we always talked about stuff like CLV prediction, right? That's the standard thing that in the first 1 or 2 days or 3 days, you can get as much information about this customer as possible. In our case, in the first 2 days, and predict something that gives you the information. But I mean, the prediction you build will be based on historical data, right? So
exactly. So we need to do several things, and I think most people who are actually planning to do this, or actually even willing to do it, they will kind of stop following up at one point of that journey.
So you mean get it now. So you have a good you have a good model,
predictive model, but that's based on historical data.
Yeah,
so what we need to do now is we need to
updated.
put it to the test in 2 ways. First of all, we need to kind of at some point just save these predictions for people where we haven't.
Yeah.
Where we didn't even, not someone else in the company, nobody knew the ground truth, and then we need to follow up on that. But then secondly, we need to find out a way, let's say a more longer term A/B test, where we actually make sure that by this new way of bidding, we get those people for the same cost, and we're not getting them also where we in the case where we are not doing this. Because it could still be that suddenly, for whatever reason, consumer taste changed and people are more health conscious and they buy more protein powder, and we would have gotten all these people without all this fucking pipeline and engineering and whatnot.
So a null test.
I would say ideally, if we can afford it, and if we embark on a journey like this, what we do is we do constant holdout over a longer period of time.
But honestly, that's something. I mean, we already did this like 10 years ago with like TV tracking and stuff like this. It's very hard to make people understand that you shouldn't put the budget on everyone because you might scale even more. And holdout tests are always a very interesting thing to. And then at first make marketeers understand this is good, and then make the higher powers.
And then it needs to be likely needs to be a constant geo holdout because the users we don't even know.
Oh, that's even worse.
Yeah, and then it's gonna get very difficult.
Yeah, technically this is the right way, but I think that's something that's really hard to.
And I mean, then one question I have in my mind, even if we have identified like rank of high versus low or versus mid predictive lifetime value users, if we send this signal back, and that's still another question, but we send some sort of signal back to the ad platforms, signaling that it's a high versus low predictive lifetime value. Yeah. What if they all look the same from what the attributes are that Meta or Google has?
Well, then we have a problem. But that I mean
that's what I'm saying.
But the thing is
that realistic
possibility? Totally. Yeah. But would you ever know?
Okay, but how do, for example? I mean, I get it that like if you sell some sort of gym rats sort of equipment, so protein powder or bench press. Okay, you buy a bench press once.
Never gonna come back.
Never gonna come back.
Hey, maybe
because you might have
friend.
killed yourself having the bench press on your neck.
You just don't need another one. But
I mean, I get that the protein powder thingy and recurring revenue is more valuable.
But this is also an important point you're making, right? This is also a completely different way of signal engineering. Whether you have something like a repeated product or a one-time product, and the same when you go between B2C and B2B. So the signals are always very different.
Yeah, exactly. And then you don't need sophisticated signal engineering if you say engagement rings. That's a pretty much one-off purchase. Yeah,
is it?
Most of the times, hopefully, but
if it works. So that is pretty much one-off. In that case, it's good. Your signal engineering can be the basket value. That's it. That's your signal.
True.
Yes, and then the question is, yet again, how do you translate that sort of business value, predictive lifetime value, or product being purchased into the actual signal? Because there seems to be like a challenge, which I mean, with bidding, it's easy if you have target rows or whatever. But if it's used to find similar users, do you send back somebody purchased something for 500 euros? Do you send like 5 signals back each 100 euros, or do you send the 500 euros back?
I would actually send back a segment or something like this. That you really, I mean, the attribution value you just talked about, some
rank or whatever.
Do a number between 0 and 1, and depending on your own thing. I mean, the thing is, whatever you predict and so on, right? You will never have a real number. You have buckets anyways.
But isn't it a bit of so we don't really know how the ad platforms will. Yeah, they will never tell us. So it's a little bit of like snake oil. It feels like
it is.
We're trying out different strength of snake oil poison through A/B testing, which we even also not sure if A/B testing is
that's going to work. We don't know that. Yeah.
So and I mean there are other alternatives such as causal inference or geolift testing. I don't know if that's really applicable, but one could test it on pre-post. Yeah. There are other ways.
Just don't do that before the start of Christmas season, Tim. You good?
Oh no, do it next week. On 2 weeks, that's perfect. Black Friday is the right time for testing.
Yeah, Tim would be happy about that. So it seems like a complex topic, but still people need to get into it.
Yeah.
And we at Funnel, we have this Activate product, which is a very first start to start doing this. We have the Google Ads-based export, and we can export conversions also back in all these other platforms to the Activate product. But for now, it's just the conversion, the information that the conversion has happened potentially through Shopify or uploading data warehouse data. But it's a good first step.
Yeah.
And I think it's also quite important. But for me, when I dived into this, I think the testing and having either constant holdout sample in place to measure against that, or to be really intelligent about how to set up these different experiments. Because also you cannot set up too many experiments at the same time, right? That would also cause problems. Too expensive to...
That's not going to work either, And the question is, again, whether you can even separate holdout users, because how are you supposed to know who is who before they became your customer?
Yeah, true.
So you might want to talk to your account manager at Google about that. But then again, we talked about conflicts of interest before. So,
you can just trust them. The algorithm is great. Just give them data and everything will work out.
Tim Wiegers, from your consulting practice, has anyone ever mentioned yet signal engineering?
No. Honestly, before you said it last week, I've never heard that before.
But passback APIs?
Yeah, sure. Conversion APIs, everything like this. I mean, postbacks have been around for mobile measurement people since the start of mobile measurement, right? I think that's the standard thing for us.
Yeah.
But
it's a kind of a new name on something that has been done before.
It's a new name, but I think the important thing for this is really whatever we talked about. I think the first thing is you have to understand what actually gives value to your customer, or which customers are valuable.
And that's important. That's a part that we are completely haven't talked about this yet too much. That many businesses just haven't done this exercise.
Not at
they
all.
don't even have like a sort of. Not even a predictive lifetime value, just like looking at the current base and understanding the lifetime value.
They don't have a connection between their marketing data and their first-party data. That's the problem.
Do you know if many people or many businesses, let's say in e-commerce, do they at least know how their valuable customers look like, what they are buying, or
they usually do, and I mean we can.
We had
Stefan
told us about it,
but I would also say what Stefan at About You is doing is not the standard. It's like
exactly that's not the standard. Let's say
but I think
we don't have the standard on our podcast.
We don't have this. What do you mean?
There's no standard on our podcast. We have these guys on the podcast.
Absolutely.
Okay. It's always good people and that are very knowledgeable. No, but the thing is, they do know, but it's really, really hard for many companies to really make this connection. So, I mean, what I'm always trying to build for everyone is like a 360-degree user journey, right? You know what kind of campaign you do, you know what happens on your website, you know someone does something in your product, then someone comes back and so on. So I think that's, in the end, that's like 4 different data sets. And these data sets are really, really rarely connected. So it might be the case that controlling knows quite well, these are great customers because they come back. And product knows, these are the products that are getting bought quite often and that are the products that are getting bought best. And the website knows, this is the best page. And on this page, the conversion is the highest. And the marketing manager knows, this campaign gets the most impressions. Yeah. And to get these 4 things together, I think that's the thing you have to do before you do signal engineering, because without that, you are blind anyways.
That's because we only have 3 minutes left. Right. I think that's a very good. I mean that's a great way to kind of wrap up. What are the next steps that marketers listening to this should do? What would you suggest? Like, I mean, obviously, first understanding the lifetime value, potentially,
or whatever. I mean, it could also just be a very high-level lead or something like this.
Yeah, but I think first of all, people need to understand their lifetime value on a high level. That is very important, just in order, for example, to not go bankrupt. Given like business fundamentals or basics.
Yeah,
exactly. So, but people
whether they actually run a profitable business or not.
But people should get a data foundation in place where they can even have these discussions. And if that's not possible, then you don't need to talk about signal engineering, because there's no way that you could get this signal from anywhere. So those are the most important things. But then once you're graduating out from that, okay, I'm just doing basic BI, I'm just starting to understand my customer base, I think then it would be worth it kind of to see where are the platforms where I'm spending a lot of money, where I'm spending maybe also a lot of money algorithmically, because I'm already investing heavily into PMax, or because I'm heavily investing into Advantage Plus. And then from there on, you should think about how could I potentially, if I look at it manually with the human eye, how would I know that a customer is valuable or not? And then you can start translating that into a machine learning algorithm.
And that could, for example, be if you have some sort of lifetime value estimate, or just ranked your customers by how much revenue they brought you or profit. That you could understand, are there any attributes that I can track in the first, 1 or 2 days? What have they done?
Or
have they ordered protein powder versus the bench press? And use that maybe as a signal instead of...
And that's very important, Janusz, because like latency here is much more important than something that is extremely sophisticated. You need to get this data should be high quality, but first of all, you need to get it fast.
ASAP.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's also the important thing, right? You have to check what can you see of the customer the first 1 or 2 days.
Yeah.
And I mean, my favorites always do something like RFM, recency, frequency, monetary. Monetary doesn't have to be a monetary value.
Very
Can
very
also just be
important,
activity.
but standard data science sort
Yeah.
of technique.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very stupid model, but it gives you quite good information in the very, very first few hours,
And
few
before
days of the customer.
and before you start actual prediction of lifetime value, you should look into how good these RFM metrics sort of already predicting.
Work on the historical data.
Yeah,
That's really the most important
and
thing.
if that's good enough, just use that.
And for that, again, you have to collect your data properly.
Yes.
I think that's also something we see quite often right now. Everyone wants to do this stuff like signal engineering or fancy AI things.
Yeah.
But if you don't collect the data,
If you don't have the
before
data foundation, then don't
shit
even
in,
start.
shit out.
Yes, or garbage in, garbage out. Yeah.
Yeah, and I reckon we could help with that over here at Funnel.
all of us.
All of us could help with that.
We have people who can consult on this. Yeah, amazing. And then I mean, I'd still start also the track of just sending conversion data back into the platforms on a
absolutely.
first-party
Do
databases.
Do it.
Before you overthink, is my, RFM metric or 7-day activity correlating highly enough with my predictive lifetime value? Just start sending the conversions back to Facebook and Google. You get better results. And of course, we like to help with that and help you help you setting up A/B tests there. Great.
Cool.
4:31.
Yeah.
All right.
Anything else to add?
No, I think we can
Interesting topic.
We can talk about this for ages because we've done this for ages already.
Yeah. No, I would love to see more A/B tests or any way that proves that what kind of metrics and signals work. No, I think that's for me that's the key here. The key is not to predict lifetime value.
No.
Yeah.
Period. There are frameworks out there. I think Meta has one. Google has one.
Privacy Marketing has one.
So there are excellent frameworks out there, open source, that can be used for predicting lifetime value. So don't bother about like creating your own framework for that, but rather get practical about it. I think that's a suggestion I would like to give you. Start doing.
With proper databases.
I mean, you will only learn by actually doing it. Because what might work for one brand might completely not work
for another
for
brand.
Yeah.
That's
all right.
Cool. That sounds smart. Thanks, guys.
Cool.
Great discussion.
Thank you.
And thanks to the audience for listening. And as always, tune in next week, definitely, where we have a colleague from Google here.
Google, exactly. Looking forward to that.
We're talking about Meridian, right?
We are going to be talking about marketing mix modeling, open source marketing mix modeling, model evaluation in general terms.
Amazing.
Nice. Yeah.
Great stuff. So tune in next week. And of course, subscribe to our podcast on Spotify. Leave us a comment on LinkedIn. And thanks for tuning in this time. Bye-bye.